How do you identify a vampire?
It's simple, really. They can't stand daylight. They're afraid of garlic and holy symbols. They also cannot enter a house without being invited.
Vampyr is an action role-playing video game developed by Dontnod and published by Focus Home Interactive. It's out on the PS4, Xbox One and PC, and it came out today, June the 5th. Me and Gareth Evans, who's here with me right now, have been playing it all weekend. So we're going to talk to you about it. Guys, you've played a lot more than me.
Yes, I certainly have.
We're ready to give some impressions.
Yeah,
you're going to be our resident vampiric expert on this. I made a hilarious vampire joke a minute ago in the first take, but we weren't recording. I'm not going to repeat it, but it was good, wasn't it?
Shame.
It was so good. Vampyr, what's it about? Well, let me tell you. We're going to start off with talking about the premise, and then we'll move into combat, the dialogue system, things like that. The basic premise of the game is that in 1918, which was 100 years ago, Jonathan Reid, which is the character that you play, is a famous physician. And the game starts with him being a freshly converted vampire. He's looking for answers. How did it happen to him? Why did it happen to him? Is there a cure for vampirism? He's a doctor, right?
Yeah, he's a blood specialist. He's just come back from the war, and he gets turned, and he needs answers. Yeah,
which is interesting because right off the bat, I thought that you'd be playing as a fully fledged vampire, but no, the game starts off as that.
It's very interesting the fact that you are a blood doctor, right?
Yeah,
because,
handy.
Because blood is the central theme of this game, essentially. You're doing your research, and you're also trying to feed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great disguise. You've played a little bit more of the story than me, I suppose, Gaz. How are you enjoying the story?
Yeah, the story's good. I particularly enjoyed the interactions with the NPCs and the dialogue, and it's all set in 1918 London, so it's all like they talk appropriately for the time. Let's put it that way. So it kind of sets the scene really well, right? And it makes you like
immersed into it a bit more. Yeah, it's not overly up its own arse. It's not like taking itself dead seriously. It's a bit leans into it being a bit camp at times, which is good. And yeah, they do talk like that. I just can imagine there's a lot of drunken cockneys, and then there's sort of because you're a bit of a posh doctor, so there's a nice conversation or two that can happen between characters. Now this is pretty much the lifeblood. There we go, vampire joke number 2 of the game, because Life is Strange is the last game developed by the Dontnod team, and that's known for 2 things mostly: hilarious dialogue, for better or for worse. So it's good writing and decision making. So this is now an action game, but why don't we first just talk about that then, the dialogue options. There's the dialogue trees, as you can imagine. It's fucking trees within trees, to be honest with you. And you get all these conversational beats of lots and lots of NPCs in the world, isn't there?
There's lots of NPCs, lots of dialogue, lots of choices,
and the choices aren't, it's not like some games like where you can just exhaust all the options in every tree. If you get something wrong, you make a conversational decision that perhaps isn't the best informed. The NPC might not divulge the information that you want. Now this is important because the more you know from your victim, the more you gain when you eventually tuck into them.
That's if you decide to do so. And that's what makes it. And that's what makes it really interesting. Because I've never seen this happen or done before in a game where you talk to NPCs and it's in your interest to get the dialogue choices right, because it can help you progress. Because if you do ultimately decide to chow down on these people, then you get more XP for it.
Yes, that's essentially how this works. Because for those that were like me a week ago and were a bit confused, because there's been a lot of marketing push for the conversational system and whether or not to eat the NPCs. I thought, well, what am I going to get from eating them? What am I not going to get? That's kind of the crux of it, what you just said then. You get experience points for eating the NPCs, and you get more experience the more you know about them, the more you decide to learn. So there is a bit of
it's all tied into the progression of it too, and these NPCs can be sick as well. You being a doctor, you could administer cures to them, but the healthier that they are and the more informed that you are about these people, the more that you can progress when you chow down. Now this is important because experience is how you level up. It like traditional RPG sort of stuff. You can get experience points from combat as well, and quests and other things if you decide that you don't want to be killing everybody. And it's as simple as that. You go to a safe house or a hideout, I think they call it, and you go to bed, your skill tree pops up, and you spend your points on, what's essentially a pretty bog standard skill tree. You've got a bit of combat, a bit of
passive and stuff like that.
There's passive aggressive, there's physical, like there's blood, and there's bite, and you can upgrade how much you drain from people in your bite. You can upgrade. You've got special abilities that you can unlock. You've got a tactical one. There's like 19 or so different things that you can unlock, as well as upgrade.
It's a role-playing game. That's what they say. So I was role-playing a guy that doesn't want to be a vampire. So I'm about 2 hours in or something, and I haven't leveled up once. Yeah. I've refused to take the blood. But I've had a look at the skills that I've not got. And there's a health boost temporarily. There's new abilities. It's kind of, do you know what, like how, recent example, God of War, how you can unlock different combat specials. From what I know, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, you can't upgrade something that'll help you unlock more conversational dialogue options or anything like that. The skills that you upgrade are
no, it is combat
related,
and the progression system is very interesting because it's tied into the difficulty of the game. There's no difficulty switch or anything. It's just like single difficulty. But we talked about how easy you found it in the early part of the game. Now that does ramp up. You'll get to a certain point. Like I tried to do the same as you, not chow down on anybody and see if I can just be role play the good guy. But if you get to a certain point where an enemy will just kick your ass and you're like, right, I have to level up.
Yeah.
But for now, it's easy enough. But this whole difficulty system is tied into the balance between you wanting to chow down on these people and gain experience and level up your character versus you being the good guy and wanting to leave these characters alone and maybe explore their stories and see where they are in the world and and their social circles as well, because that's a big part of the game. This is not just an action RPG weighted heavily towards the action. This is an action RPG weighted heavily towards the social circles and the dialogues and the interactions that you have with other people. Now, you can choose to go whichever path you want. You can go all out vampire, eat as many people as you want, just play it action, or you got the choice to balance that out, make the gameplay harder for yourself by not leveling up, not chowing down on these people, and there's a fundamental choice there.
Yeah.
Like what how do you want to play it? And that's the RPG element, and that's what it does differently from other games I find, and that's the part I'm really enjoying.
At the moment, I'm not completely sold on the weight of the decision making, because it's like the Life is Strange games were really good at making me like think, oh god, what am I going to do this way or that way? And a lot of the time when I play games, I just go chaotic neutral. No one's giving me a reason to eat them because
you haven't been to the other districts.
That's right. I'm just doing quests.
There are some arseholes around that need eating. I'm telling you, some arseholes, the way they speak to you, they talk down to you because you're a posh doctor. Them bastards need eating. And you've got to stop yourself from doing that, right? You've got to stop your impulses to bite their faces.
This is something I'm hoping that later on in the game I'll see a bit more of, because at the moment I'm doing quests for people instead of eating them, and the quests are quite rewarding because not only are they providing me with more experience than I would have got from eating them, which is essentially making them a cash cow with blood, but it's just nice to do quests because I can see the effort that the writers have put in. And if I had eaten this woman, then I wouldn't have seen the work that the people who made the game have put in. So at the moment, I'm trying to not eat anybody so I can see where all the work's gone and things like that.
Experience all the characters' backstories and stuff like that, which you won't get, like you said, if you kill them.
Which is maybe why I'll go back and play it again and eat everybody, which just gives the game replayability.
Which is great.
Any game with a system like this,
a single player game,
exactly.
That has replayability outside of what other RPG makers these days might like shoehorn in some multiplayer, for example, just throwing it out there, whereas a single player game, RPG game, doesn't need multiplayer for replayability. It just needs decent systems and a deep, rich world.
Mm-hmm. It's speaking of I guess deep, we could talk about the combat if you want, because something that people were asking about in the run up to the release of the game, the combat. Now, I know this isn't anything to do, and I know I've already kind of alluded to God of War, really, but it is quite similar to me. There's lots of rolling, dodging, locking on. There's a stun bar. When you stun the enemy, you can then they're open to you biting them. You biting them can upgrade your blood meter, which is essentially like your special move bar. So you use this as kind of like a currency. You've got a stamina bar, a health bar, and this bar, which you can use to, the skill tree that we talked about earlier, you can unlock skills with. And then
you can use your specials, you can heal yourself. You can do.
You can either use aggressive things like the only thing that I leveled up was when I had to, and I bought claws, which is a very powerful attack. But you can also use it defensively, or like you were saying a minute ago, to heal yourself. So the combat, I found it. I've just come from like a Dark Souls marathon, right? So I feel like I'm perfectly tuned for combat at the moment. I didn't find it a struggle. I found it very fluid. It was nice. Felt cool to roll. Made you feel like a badass, which is kind of what you want in combat. I felt like it was good. It wasn't like Arkham combat where you hold one button and you have to be paying attention. You're pressing the attack button or whatever.
Yeah, you can switch between two loadouts on the fly, so you can have a two-handed melee weapon like I've got, and then you can switch that out to maybe a gun in one hand and
a machete or something.
Yeah, a machete in the other hand. So you've got options there. You've also got syringes, which you can use. You can craft as well. There's a huge not a huge crafting system, but there's a very deep crafting system in the game too, which not a lot of reviews I've seen have touched on. So you can craft these syringes that can help you out in battles. They can replenish your blood bar and your stamina and your health bar as well. So there's a lot of options going on there.
Yeah, the world itself, well, London 100 years ago, you've got all the classics like Whitechapel and shit like that. Guys, you've explored a bit more than me. And
I like the environments. System. The environments are really good. One of the criticisms for the game is that the facial textures are not up to scratch in this day and age in the industry, having just come off playing Detroit Become Human. It's so noticeable to me. Yeah. However, to counterbalance that little negative is that the environments themselves are really good. The lighting is fantastic, all the furniture and everything, and all the detail that's gone into the environments. It's not a sprawling open world. It's a very tight, controlled area, really. But it is an open area. But they've put a lot of effort into the detail in that area, and I really appreciate that.
I don't feel like at any point they've got like the wooden box generator and just copy and pasted it in a room 5 times. Everything feels like really well designed. Like I feel like every room somebody's called somebody else over in the design team and gone, does that look quite right to you? Everything feels like a big decision.
And there's environmental storytelling too. There's like a mission near the start where you see like a dead vampire downstairs and then a dead guy upstairs, and the more you explore, you can read this the diary from the guy to find out what happened. And it was a man and wife who tragically one of the wife had succumbed to vampirism, and then you read their last moments alive, and it's quite touching as well. And there's lots of examples of that throughout the world, which is great. You can just roll up to an area and think what went on here, and then you follow the clues and you find out what happened, which is awesome.
Very satisfying when you put the pieces together, but totally missable. Vampyr, it's a game about vampires. How much does it, lean into the vampire lore? Let me tell you, it's pretty good for that sort of stuff. Jonathan subtly gets invited into everywhere he goes into, which is cool because vampires can only go to places when they're invited. That's the vampire lore. So if you pay attention to that, I was looking, crucifixes appear like bright and disorientating, like someone shining a torch in your face. It's very cool how it touches on a lot of the vampire tropes. My only little vampire lore gripe is that he has a reflection, and he shouldn't. Come on. If that's the one...
I personally don't think it leans into the vampire lore a lot. There's there is a narrative moment in the game, or a point where it explains to you that you're not a regular vampire. You're something called an Econ. So and there's skulls, which are the lower level vampire. So you're not a vampire. Like the people call you a vampire because they don't understand what you are. You're an Econ, right?
Right. Yeah.
Although the game is called Vampyr and you're supposed to be a vampire. You're technically not. So it gives them an allowance to be able to write whatever lore they want about vampires, essentially. And these Econs, they've got reflection shake. You're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
it's an Econ at the end.
I'll be the judge of that. Econs. But Vampyr. Then your enjoyment of it is probably going to be relying on a couple of obvious factors. If you enjoy the idea of the gothic-y sort of 100-year-old London and vampires, and that you're going to get a game full of conversational options, and if you're not a fan of the genre, it's not going to sway you. Okay, it's more preaching to the choir than getting a new sermon in. Maybe have a look at some more gameplay and stuff like that. But because the game is full price, I feel like everything I looked at about the game, when I finally played the game, it all just came true. So go with your gut on it. That's what I think.
I feel like there's a lot beneath the surface to this game, and my early impressions weren't too hot. But the more I played it, the more I realised that this is a game with a hidden depth and a lot of gameplay. For an RPG fan, I really love the interactions with the characters and unraveling these mysteries that happen with not only the characters but in the environments and everything. And I feel like this game does appeal to those core RPG players, and not so much the mainstream AAA action type gamers. I feel like it is more weighted towards the RPG type of gameplay. And I've seen one review even say that the combat doesn't even need to be in there because the game could stand on its own merits without that. So as a game which has a lot of different variety of gameplay with a progression system which I think is really, really good, a crafting system, you've got combat, and also it's the social side of things, which we haven't touched on a lot, to do with how the districts react to how you treat them. You're kind of like a farmer, right? Where if you treat your cows well, you can make them healthy and then chow down on them and feed them. In this case, or you can totally destroy, districts can be destroyed, right? There's 4 districts in the game. They can be totally destroyed if you don't look after them properly. And that leads to the districts being overrun by vampires, and so you won't be able to travel around without it being a hostile environment, which in itself is an awesome mechanic because it leaves it onto you and your morality as the character in the game. How do you want to treat these people? How do you want to approach these set of problems? And I think that's fantastic. And for a game which is not a AAA game, it's a notch below AAA. However, I think that it does give you a different experience, and it innovates in gameplay mechanical ways, right? And we talked about Mike Gallagher from the ESA talking about innovation in the games industry can't happen without loot boxes or if the government regulates whatever. This is where innovation is happening in games. It's developers like Dontnod who put themselves out there trying something different with how this progression works in the game, how you interact with the characters in the game makes a huge difference, right? And replayability in a single player game, and narrative doing a single player game that doesn't have to resort to trying to do online or whatever. This is where the innovation is happening for me, and I back this game 100%. Although I know it's flawed and there's certain people who won't like it for what it is, I 100% back this game. It is, for me, it is awesome, and it's something special, and it's something that I will remember in future for doing things right. I only hope that people and developers of the future will take this as some sort of inspiration for them and try and develop further and iterate further on what they're trying to achieve here, because Dontnod, they are ambitious and they've tried something different, and I, for one, support that. But that's just how I feel.
Tickets to Gareth's seminar are available online. Thank you very much, Gaz. That's Vampyr, out right now on PS4, Xbox One and PC. It's about 40 quid in the UK, $50 in the USA. Cheers very much. There's more content on the screen right now if you want to check that out. There's a link to our Patreon as well. Hey, we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.